World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hangin with Web show. I'm GW Pomichter. Thank you for logging on, tuning in, for being here with us on HWWS WebTV. We are at the Melbourne Square Mall at the Authors in a Box annual event. We're hanging out with the silly Yaya herself, the one and only children's author, Violet Favero. Violet, how are you?
Thank
Welcome
you so
back.
much. Thank you.
I look forward to us hanging out every year.
Me too.
It's been the last couple of years we've got to hang out and talk. What have you been up to? I mean, that pile's bigger than when we started a couple of years ago.
Yes.
So the last time you were on, I think we talked about your what you were convalescing for a while, and you had done your graphic novel for kids, My Graphic Novel.
That's right.
By the way, Michael loved his My Graphic Novel.
I'm so happy.
He drew and drew and drew and told stories, and it was wonderful. What have you been up to since?
So my newest book is an early chapter book. So So you know when kids are reading picture books, and then about in first grade, they go to the library and they take that chapter book and they're so excited, I have a chapter book, but they can't read it.
That's true.
They're not ready. They're not ready. This is the book for them.
Rather than a leaping, this is your first step.
This steps them from picture book to chapter book.
Wow. And how did you accomplish this feat? Because this has been an age-old problem for our youngsters. They go from picture books to reading books, and often in that transition, that's when we lose a lot of would-be lifelong readers. Is in that when it's difficult and that transition doesn't happen smoothly,
that's right.
We lose them.
I was at a library doing a summer program talking to the librarian, and I said, where's the deficit in children's books? What do you need? And she said, it's the early chapter book. We need a book that's in between. And I was like, okay.
How did you bridge the gap? What did you do special to bridge the gap?
Well, I started to write. I said, I'm going to write the story and I'm going to see what happens. Is it a picture book or is it a chapter book? I'm going to let the story do the flow. And it was long enough to be an early chapter book, 78 pages, 10 chapters.
Wow.
There's illustrations on every single page. So the child is still getting the words
and the visual stimulation
of the pictures.
Wow.
So now they are like, oh, this isn't just words, there's still pictures. And then I transitioned it from colored pictures in a picture book to black and white, simple line drawings.
Okay, so that really, they're not losing what they had, but they're transitioning.
No, they're not. And so now they feel, they know that transition. When they pick the book up to see those simple black and white line drawings, think of Wimpy Kid, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So they know they've stepped up.
They do, they really, and I mean, that's a big moment. And you know, as much as we set bars for our children and our grandchildren to meet, they set a lot of their own, and that has been a mile marker, I think, for children, for generations, that moment that you go from the children's book to the chapter book.
Yeah.
Which is the whole term comes from.
Yeah.
That's a child's term. No parent made that up.
No, that's right.
That's when a child came home and he had a book that was actually more words than pictures. That's how they would refer to them. They would say, I have a chapter book.
Yeah.
And so they set that bar for themselves, and they're very excited to meet it. So it's got to be great when they have a book that they can use that sentence, they can promote themselves at the same time. They didn't lose any of what drew them into stories in the first place.
Yeah, they still love to read when they've got that book, and it's not a chore. It's still a gift. It's still a pleasure for them.
So what's the story here? What is this?
Oh gosh, so
Gracie's RV Misadventure.
Gracie's RV Misadventure. So Gracie is an Italian Greyhound. She is dramatic. She is very dramatic. Not only is she dramatic.
I want to say that a long time ago, because we have a dog track here in town.
Yes.
And a long time ago they were doing adoptions, and a friend got a Greyhound. That's a very accurate description. They are very, very dramatic.
And it's an understatement description. So an Italian Greyhound is smaller than the racing Greyhounds. They're about between 10 and 14 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So Gracie was dramatic. Gracie loves food. Gracie has anxiety. Gracie goes on an RV adventure with her owner, Silly Yaya.
You know where this is going, folks, is if you're traveling with Silly Yaya, it's good. Hijinks will ensue.
It happens.
That's right.
They're on the trip, and suddenly Gracie's lost her blanket. The blanket she can't sleep without. The blanket she's had since she was a puppy. Now, what child can't relate to that?
Oh my.
All kids have a blanket or a stuffed animal.
I'm a U.S. Army infantryman. Without a whoopee, forget it.
Okay.
Just saying.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I am not going without the whoopee.
So what is she going to do? So on the last night of the trip, she realizes she doesn't have her blanket. Where'd she lose it? She's got no idea. She's freaking out. I mean, freaking out. She has a plan. She's going to retrace her steps, remember everywhere she was on the trip. Surely she'll remember where she lost her blanket, right? It's a brilliant idea, right? Or maybe it's not.
Yeah, it could be.
So Gracie retraces her steps.
I'm going to say it's probably not, but she's going to try it anyway.
Retraces her steps with Silly Yaya. Along the way, there's some snakes and a shower with a goat and some campfires.
These are not things that you normally see along the way, showers with goats and...
When you are on an RV trip with Silly Yaya, these things happen.
These. And you knew that. You did. You really did know that. Okay. We have a big workbook. What is this?
Yeah.
This is like a set here.
Yeah. So it comes in paperback.
Okay.
Hardcover.
Awesome, by the way. The kids love the hardcovers.
Yeah,
that's right.
So this is the coloring and activity book, but guess what?
Oh.
It's really a reading comprehension book. The kids don't know that.
Oh, look at that.
So throughout the book...
Mom and Dad, you get to sneak a little learning into their coloring activities.
Yeah. Oh, and just so you know, there is the snake.
There's a snake
around the ice machine.
And there's a goat in the shower.
And a goat in the shower. So...
See,
yeah,
wow.
So anyway, there are word scrambles, there are which one is different.
Now, you have a unique advantage for a children's writer because you are the Silly Yaya and you have your own beta.
I have my own beta testing group,
yes.
9 granddaughters.
9 granddaughters, your own beta testing group. And how did Yaya do with these? So amazing. So in this book, there is some repetition. So Gracie, at every point where she's looking for her blanket, says, "Where is my blanket?" When the kids are reading it and they get to that page, that's how they say it. "Where is my blanket?" Awesome. You know, one of the most, I think, amazing parts of readers' literary journeys is the ability to emote, to feel what's happening in a story. Not just to suspend your disbelief long enough to understand the story, but to feel like you're in it. Yeah. And children are the best example of that when you can do it well. Because a child will I remember, we can all remember even, Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham. You felt the frustration. You felt it as it built up more and more and more. To do that successfully and to say that's how your kids are reading it out loud, where is, that's a great thing. Now, in addition to your own beta squad, you go out and read to the kids. Yeah, I do. And so in the book, because Gracie's dramatic and she's anxious, when I go into the schools, I do my presentation. It's a PowerPoint presentation. And during that presentation, we talk about drama. I say, "Do I have any drama queens or kings in the audience?" And they raise their hands, and we talk about being dramatic and what that means. And I have the vocabulary words, and we define that. And then we talk about anxiety. And it's startling, the number of kids who raise their hands who have anxiety, who have a tummy ache, whose hands tingle. And Gracie talks about that in the book. Wow. We're addressing her anxiety in the book. That's fantastic. Yeah. It is, a lot of times, we realize that as society changes, as life changes for us, whether it be technologically or everything from schools to work to the world we live in, as the world changes, we realize a lot of times the impact that those changes have on us as adults. What we don't often realize is that those changes have an impact on the youngest among us.
Right.
As the world changes, it has created, more and more children are not having as much fun. They're stressed, they're anxious.
They are. They're not playing outside enough.
They're not. They're not playing outside enough when they're at school. They're not playing enough sometimes in general.
Correct.
I think we spend a lot of time working our schools in many cases, especially upper schools, but even as low as kindergarten and first grade, have become more about what I would call workforce development than about education. And in trying to educate them, we're actually trying to create a better worker instead of a better person.
Yes.
And when we lose sight of the person, we create anxious children. We create people who have to be dramatic for attention and for effect because they're not getting it from one another. They're not interacting with one another.
It's so true. And when
what is next for silly Yaya in her writing journey?
I am writing a children's immigration book.
Wow.
I'm very brave to do that because immigration has become a political topic instead of a historical topic.
And and I'm going to throw it out there anyway just because it's there. And we've said it out loud. We've been brave enough to say the words out loud. When we grew up, it was the Great American Melting Pot.
Yes.
We grew up on Saturday morning specials, and we grew up with the Schoolhouse Rock, and everything in our society and our being told us the story of where we came from and how wonderful that diverse background was. Today, it has polarized more than a nation, a continent. It has frozen a continent.
I have never before, when I've written a book, struggled with a title. And I couldn't use the word immigration in the title. This is my grandfather's immigration story.
Wow.
When he got on a ship when he was 6 years old from Greece, didn't speak English, his parents didn't speak English, and came to America. My grandfather lived the American dream. He owned 3 restaurants. He went on to raise a successful sons and daughter and had a big family, and that's what it's about. But I could not use that term. My beta group just could not accept the word immigration. It's not a nice word anymore.
Yeah, and which is so incredibly sad.
It's sad, but we need to know our history. How did my ancestors come here? The way that yours came here, probably on a ship.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, if you have blonde hair, blue eyes, and pale skin, or you have curly hair and very dark skin, if you do not look Native American, chances are somebody came here on a ship, on a plane later on. Someone came here from somewhere else.
Right.
And here's the news, guys. Big news. It's only been around about 33,000 years. If you do have native skin, you still came here from somewhere else.
That's right.
You crossed over the Bering Land
Bridge. We all migrated.
Yeah, so migration is such an amazing part of who we are as a nation, as a continent, really. North America was settled by, and South America, the entire hemisphere was settled by people from Europe and other places. It's an incredibly brave story to tell. You wanted to tell your family story, though.
That's right. This is my family story.
Now, your grandfather came here.
My grandfather came here when he was 6 years old with his mother and father and 3 siblings. Came here on a big ship. Didn't speak English. His parents didn't speak English.
Wow.
He graduated valedictorian of his high school class and went on to live the American dream, what all immigrants want. He owned 3 businesses, like standard for Greeks. He owned Greek restaurants,
One of the things that we have forgotten how to politely disagree sometimes.
Absolutely.
And in the forgetting, I like to remind people, your grandfather, that wasn't an easy journey.
Oh, no, it was weeks on a crowded ship.
We have spent a lot of time making, in modern era, making the word immigration kind of a dirty word. But it's not. And the journey of an immigrant has never been one of ease. Assimilation has never been easy. We have always had the same issues that we have today. The difference was we knew that was part of our journey.
Right. And
we embraced it.
In the dedication of the book, I dedicate it to my grandparents for being brave. To me, the word immigration means bravery.
It takes such courage to pack up what little you have and all of your hopes and dreams and ambitions and go somewhere so completely foreign to you, not in a negative way, guys, but in the truest sense of the word foreign. It's a place that you don't know the language or the culture or the landmarks or the geography. Everything is new.
Imagine being 6 years old, and in the book I say, when they arrived to the shores of the United States, it didn't look like his island of Lesbos in Greece at all. And when they got off the ship and went through Ellis Island and stepped into the city, he was overwhelmed with the sights, the sound, and the smells. Imagine, it smells different in another country. He came from an island with
in that city, it really smelled different in those days.
Because there were so many people from all over the world. And then they took a train and they went to this town.
What was your grandfather's name?
Pananochis Hadji Anagnosto.
He did not have an easy time.
That's right.
That they couldn't even pronounce that.
Correct.
Wow. You're in the middle of this project now? Where are you at?
Almost done.
Almost done. Wow. Yeah. What do you hope readers take away from your book?
Well, in the story, Pete is overwhelmed with these sights and sounds and smells, and he talks about, imagine being in a place where you don't understand what they're saying, where everybody looks different than me, and perhaps it'll bring some empathy to children in school who have someone else come into class who maybe is new and moved in the area, who doesn't look like them, and maybe doesn't speak English as a first language. And to tell the story so that kids know where we came from and what our ancestors went through and what a tough time they had to make it easy for us today.
It is so much easier for us today.
Oh gosh.
And sadly, the same issues exist when you come to a place for the very first time. The language barrier that you face, the cultural barriers that you face. Sadly, at times, the barriers that you had to face to get here. And the reality is that at the end of the day, we are all from somewhere. And our heritage is important and our culture is important, as is the place that we've chosen to make our home. This is the one place on the planet where we live. We won the lottery.
Absolutely.
Because this is the one place on the planet where you can choose to be one of us. You can be an American by choice. Mm-hmm. That's not something that happens around the world very often.
No, it does not.
You are born German, you are born French, you are born Russian, you are born English, but you choose to be an American.
That's right.
And we're grateful that all of those people around the world have made those choices for us.
Yes.
We are so happy to see that around the world today, people are still making that choice. Check out Violet Favero, The Silly Yaya on Amazon. We're going to drop links down below so that you guys can get started on these chapter books for your young. If you guys have already read some of Silly Yaya stuff, this is the next step. So let's keep it up. Click the links down below. Check out Violet Favero on Amazon, children's author. In the meantime, we're going to thank our partners and friends at Brevard Film and Talent, Hearts Helping Others of Central Florida, Space Coast Comics, Josh Bauer at J. Bauer Art for all the fantastic art that's on our set this weekend. It's fantastic. Our great friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, and our brand new friends at Echo Arts and Gifts in the Melbourne Square Mall for this fantastic anime fan here that's on our set this weekend. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for logging on, for tuning in. Be sure to come back to see who we're hanging with next. Awesome.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Awesome.